Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston Station, we're ready for the event.
U.S. Naval Academy Alumni Association, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Jimmy DeButz with the U.S. Naval Academy Alumni Association. How do you hear me?
Hey, Jimmy, this is Jack Hathaway on the International Space Station. I've got you loud and clear. How me?
Welcome, sir. Appreciate you taking time for us. Just want to welcome you to the Voices from Orbit podcast, which is our look at Naval Academy alumni who have reached the status of astronauts. So appreciate you joining us from the ISS, and just want to give our listeners a little of your bio, if you don't mind. Commander Jack Hathaway is from the grade class of 2004. He's obviously joining us upside down now from the International Space Station. He's part of Expedition 7475 on SpaceX Crew 12, where he served as mission pilot. Commander Hathaway flew and deployed with VFA-14 aboard USS Nimitz in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. He has over 2,500 flight hours and flew 39 combat missions. Commander Hathaway, thank you again for joining us. First off, what is it like being in space? I see some cool things you're doing with the microphone, spinning it in zero gravity. Just can you share what your first impressions when you got to space and what it was like to see the Earth from the heavens?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to start by saying, I am from the grade class of 2004, GOAC 4, and happy to talk to the Alumni Association. Being up here in zero gravity, it's really just absolutely amazing. Like, it's a whole new environment that you're just not used to. You can't really predict. The veterans that had been up there warned or prepared you by saying that you can't really prepare for what it's going to be like. You don't know how your body's going to react. You don't know what those feelings are going to be like. But it's a surreal, incredible experience to be able to just float around and do flips and just float things in the air. It's a super awesome experience.
I just want to, like I said, we're just starting this podcast. It's going to launch with Charlie Duke from the class of 57 next week, and then you'll be the second guest. So I appreciate you taking this special call from space. Did you always aspire to be an astronaut? I know you were a pilot and that kind of thing, but was that ever something as a kid that you aspired to?
Yeah, as a kid, I definitely was interested in being a pilot. And, when I was growing up, the space shuttle was flying, and being a space shuttle pilot was definitely a dream of mine. I remember going to the Cape as a young kid and seeing it standing there. And the idea of being able to fly something like that was just super awesome. So it was definitely on my mind as I was growing up. And then after I joined the Navy and started flying F-18s for the Navy, I just fell in love with that. I could have done that for the rest of my life. Flying fighter jets off aircraft carriers is pretty awesome job, pretty comparable to this one as well. But then the opportunity to join NASA came up, and I had to take it.
Well, can you tell us about the Academy has more astronauts than any other college? I think it's 56 is the number now. And how did your time at the Naval Academy prepare you for the rigors of astronaut training and operating in space?
As everyone says, being from the Naval Academy is a great thing, and it does prepare you in a lot of ways. Like, we put midshipmen through a lot of pressure, both physically and mentally, emotionally, as they're going through the program there. And I think that helps them throughout their naval career, and it certainly helped me and helps me in an astronaut career. That those basics of learning how to handle pressure and react well are super critical. And also at the Naval Academy, we have a very technical education. But there's also quite a bit of humanities, and I think both of those are important. Like, it's an entry-level fee to understand the technical and the engineering involved with being an astronaut. We require a master's degree in a STEM field or equivalent type education because the technical knowledge is so important. But also the humanities and understanding how people think and how people work is also pretty critical here. When I was at the Naval Academy as a freshman, my history teacher was like, you're going to be a pilot someday, and that's awesome, but the first thing you're going to be after you graduate is an officer. You're going to be in charge of leading men and women to combat, and that's an important part of your job. And understanding how people think, how people react, and how to interact with them to get the best out of them is super critical. And I think there's a big piece of that happens at the Naval Academy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. How the Naval Academy shaped your leadership style. I mean, everybody has a different course that they go after they commission, but some of those foundational values, I'm sure, are instilled in you in Annapolis.
Yeah, some foundational qualities that come to mind from my time in Annapolis and my time in the Navy. Humility is the first one. Like, you have to realize when you show up to the Naval Academy, everyone that shows up there, is one of the best students, one of the best athletes, one of the best all sorts of different types of things from the place they grew up in, and then they show up at the Naval Academy and they're surrounded by other people that challenge them, that were also the best at various things where they come from. And as they say, steel sharpens steel, and having the humility to recognize that you're in a field of incredible people with incredible talent and learn what you can from them is really a foundational quality. The next one I'd talk about is resilience, both from a personal standpoint and from like a professional standpoint. There's been many times in my career when I've made a mistake and it has not gone well for me. I did something and in the end I had to own up to it. And the boss came to me and said, "Hey, you're a great officer. We love having you around as a pilot, but you can't make that mistake again." And your ability to be resilient to those types of mistakes, because we're all going to make them, and your ability to bounce back and come back the next day and try even harder is awesome. And that resiliency transfers over to your personal life as well. Being at sea for long periods of time or in space for long periods of time is difficult on us and our families. And being able to be resilient in that personal sense and keep optimistic all those times, that comes from the dark ages at the Naval Academy in February, where it's been a long year and it's dark outside and it's snowing, it's cold, and you're walking down Stribling. And you just have to be resilient and show up with your best every day. And those are a couple of foundational qualities, I think, that have stretched from the Naval Academy throughout my career.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Yeah, obviously, you mentioned that your career also includes, STEM, a master's degree, and you're doing some important work up there in ISS. Can you share some of the experiments you're working on and how they are maybe translate into bettering humankind and life in space?
Absolutely. The International Space Station is a national laboratory up here. One of the main things that we're doing up here is doing science to understand how people and materials and biology reacts in microgravity, both because we want to understand microgravity and also because the microgravity allows us to do things that we can't necessarily do experiments on Earth. For instance, we do a lot of 3D printing up here now, both with biological tissue and with metal and plastics. Because these 3D printings respond differently in microgravity, we can learn quite a bit about how crystals grow, how cells that don't have the pull of gravity forcing them into a particular alignment work. So that's a big area of our work. We also do a lot of human physiology type experiments to understand how the body reacts to microgravity. One of the most interesting experiments, I think, my colleague Chris Williams just departed the space station 2 days ago and is back on Earth. And one of the first things he's going to do as he gets back is see how his body that's been in space for 8 months and deconditioned by the lack of gravity, nothing straining his muscles or his bones. He's going to get into a spacesuit and he's going to simulate building a moon outpost, or more importantly, a Mars outpost, because the mission to Mars is going to take about 6 months, about the amount of time we spend up here. And the day after you get there, you're going to have to put on a heavy spacesuit, get out into real gravity, and start building stuff. And we need to understand how the human body reacts to that type of environment.
That's perfect. I was going to ask you about the program's future, space program's future, and returning the moon, aiming for Mars. Sounds like some of these things it's all kind of building on one step onto the next. How can some of what you guys are doing now really propel the program forward into the next exciting chapter?
I think in the space program generally, and certainly what's happening here on ISS, is the people that lay the groundwork for the next steps. We stand on the shoulders of the giants that came before us, who didn't even know if human beings would be able to swallow and eat and drink and how they would react to microgravity at all. To now we're up on the space station, learning how to live in a way that is sustainable, because launch costs are expensive. And the more that we can learn how to recycle our water and our atmosphere, the less water we have to bring with us as we go to Mars. The more that we can understand how to 3D print tools and supplies and habitats up here on the space station, the more we'll be able to use that technology on the surface of the moon and eventually Mars. And that's going to make it easier and more successful when we get there the first time. So our time up here on the space station is like a springboard for our future missions to get to the moon and beyond. It's a very exciting time to be part of the program.
I saw that you're helping the next generation of STEM learners by working with high school and juniors and high school students on experiments and many involving soils and seeds, that, like the microbes you're talking about, to space phenomena. How important is it to try to engage those young minds with these opportunities to maybe sow the seed, so to speak, for the next generation?
I think engaging with the next generation is really one of the most important things that we get to do up here. It's certainly one of the most satisfying and humbling experiences to be able to talk to a young person who's excited about the future and share with them what you're doing and how they could eventually be part of this exciting program. Is really, it's inspiring from both points of view. We love to talk to high school students and young professionals, understand where they're coming from and the problems that they want to solve. We're inspired by the amount of passion that young people have and that they want to bring to this program, to adventure, to understanding the world around us. Any chance I get to talk to people like that and share my story, how I got to be here and answer their questions and keep the inspiration going on, like people did before for me. I just want to pay that back and keep doing it as much as possible.
Yeah, I've been privileged to go to a couple of the astronaut convocations at the Naval Academy, and it's great to see the packed crowd for one in Mahan Hall, and then also the interaction between the midshipmen and the astronauts who come back. So they're obviously looking for that. The midshipmen are seeing that those opportunities and potential because they see people who preceded them on Strickland, like you mentioned. What advice would you give to current mids or young people thinking about entering the academy? Maybe they want to be an astronaut, but more importantly, to enter that life of service.
That's a great question, and one of the best parts about the Naval Academy, all the service academies, and our lives generally is that life of service that you just mentioned. People that come to the Naval Academy, they measure success in life not with money or things or glory, but trying to be the best version of themselves, and as officers, trying to help other people be the best versions of themselves. So I would encourage people to embrace that, to love that is really part of the great part of a life of service. I'd also say never stop learning. You will go through phases of your career and you'll learn and you'll get really good at something, and then you'll go on to another tour of duty and it'll be a little bit different and you'll have to learn new things, and the things that got you to one step won't be the things that get you to the next step, and the best version of yourself is the one that keeps learning and keeps on trying to understand the next piece and be ready for the next adventure. Two more things to think about, I think. Value your teammates and value the people that you work with. The best moments of my life and my career have been when people that I've worked with want to come work with me again. They come up and say, "Hey, Radio, I loved working with you as an OPSO. When you're skipper of a squadron, do you have a spot for me? I'd love to come work for you." Those types of experiences, when you have people that work with you and for you that are incredible Americans, very talented people, and they enjoy your mentorship and leadership enough to want to come back, that's awesome. And be the type of leader that people want to work for again. My last piece of advice is find a rule that you can kind of stretch a little bit. Go on deployment, grow a mustache that's just a little bit too big. Challenge the status quo and see where you can push the envelope just a little bit. That's what we do in the Navy, and I encourage everyone as they start out their career to find a corner of the envelope that they think they can expand.
Great advice. Thank you, sir. Just kind of talking about the ISS a little bit. How difficult was it getting used to, working with other people? Maybe you knew, maybe you didn't, but working in a smaller and small environment, and then just kind of going about your day-to-day, business.
Working up here on ISS is great. We select a great group of people that are motivated, and we train together. We understand each other. We have the opportunities to do different types of training envelopes that allow us to understand how each other reacts under stress, and we try to understand each other really well. So when you get up here, you can kind of understand where people are coming from. It doesn't mean that you know everybody perfectly well, but you want to be that type of person that can work with anyone. Like, in the Navy, flying fighters, we had a concept that someday you're going to show up over enemy country and you're just going to find a wingman of opportunity. And based on your training and your experience and your character, you guys are just going to be able to work together because you understand the mission and you understand the standard operating procedures, and you guys are just going to be able to execute. And that's what we strive for up here, is to have people that understand the mission, that want to work together. And between us and the ground as well, because we can't do the mission up here. We're just the tip of the spear of the thousands of people on the ground that work in the various control centers that set us up for success every day. So it's really quite an amazing experience to be part of this team.
And we got to know how you got your call signal radio.
That is a great question, and I will tell the story over a beer at the Alumni Club to anybody that finds me there.
That seems to be a familiar refrain when I've asked those questions about from pilots. Well, thank you. We will have to have you here in Annapolis. Speaking of Annapolis, and you've got some fellow alumni there, Caleb Aaron, Nicole Mann, who are currently astronauts, and Rebecca, who's working her way up through the process. Do you guys kind of lean on each other as alumni, share secrets, gouge each other out about the things that might help you make the next transition in your life or your training easier?
The answer to that is, of course we do, and it's even a little bit bigger than that. You learn in the Navy, certainly I did, that you will never succeed without the mentorship of the people that came before you. So every squadron I was a part of, every unit I was a part of, there was someone there that took me under their wing and taught me how to do things and where to find the mess hall on the ship, how to land on the boat, how to lead a division, how to lead a strike group. Like, these are things that you learn from the people that went before you. And so when it's your turn to teach the next generation, you take that on board and you teach them. And of course, we in the Navy, we look out for each other, but it's bigger than that. All of the astronauts in the office look after the new astronauts, and we're excited to teach them the things that we know, the tips that we have, show them the pitfalls. It's really a great thing to be able to learn from your mentors here in the office and really throughout a career.
What's been your favorite part? I know you've been up there several months, but what's been your favorite thing outside of the science to experience while you're up in space?
One of the interesting things up here is that our brains are wired to throw a ball knowing that there's gravity. So when you throw a ball, you know that you've got to arc it up because gravity's going to pull it down and it's going to fly in an arc to the next person. And up here in microgravity, that's not true. If you throw something up, it's just going to go up. It's going to go in the direction that you threw it because of Newton's laws. So here, one of the really cool things to get really good at is to be able to fly the length of the station, doing flips the whole way without having to touch any of the handrails. It takes quite a bit of experience to get just the right amount of push off and just the amount of rotation that you don't go colliding into the walls. But it's a really satisfying feeling to be able to fly the whole length of the space station doing somersaults. Maybe you got your headphones in and you're listening to some tunes and jamming out, just enjoying the feeling of microgravity it's a really great feeling.
Sure, we appreciate it. Thank you for taking time for us. I know we're about to run out of time, but before we go, can we get a Go Navy, Beat Army?
Go Navy, beat Army.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure, and good luck. 2004. Go Ot 4.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all participants. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.